Most people think about cancer the wrong way. They think of it as something that either happens to you or it doesn't. A matter of luck. A matter of genetics. And yes, genetics play a role. But here's what most people don't know. Research suggests that more than half of all cancers in men and nearly half in women may be preventable. Let me say that again. More than half. And one of the most powerful things you can control, starting today, is what you put in your body. Because cancer is not just a genetic disease. It's a metabolic disease. It's an inflammatory disease. And the internal environment of your body, your hormones, your inflammation levels, the fuel your cells are running on, that environment either makes it easier or harder for cancer cells to survive and grow. In this video, I want to walk you through the specific foods and food patterns that shape that environment. Not headlines, not fear, the actual science, explained clearly. And I'll give you a practical framework at the end that you can start using immediately. Stay with me, because what I'm going to cover about red meat may surprise you. It's far more nuanced than you've been told. I had a patient 2 years ago, 61 years old, no family history of cancer. He thought he was eating reasonably well. A glass of orange juice every morning, some deli sandwiches for lunch, occasional barbecue on weekends. When we looked at his diet carefully, almost every single item on that list was working against him at a cellular level. He had no idea. Most people don't. So let's start from the beginning. And the first thing I want to talk about is something that almost nobody associates with cancer risk: liquid sugar. Image 1, insert here prompt. Realistic cinematic photo, dark moody background, close-up flat lay of sugary drinks, orange juice carton, soda cans, energy drinks, boba tea, sweetened coffee cup, arranged dramatically, red warning overlay glow, dark surface, medical documentary style, 16.9. I'm not just talking about soda. I'm talking about fruit juice, energy drinks, sweetened coffee drinks, boba tea, any beverage that delivers a large dose of sugar into your bloodstream rapidly, without fiber, without protein, without anything to slow it down. Large population studies have found that even one small glass, just 8 ounces, of fruit juice per day is associated with a 17% increase in breast cancer risk, a 10% increase in colorectal cancer risk, and a 30% increase in cancers of the biliary tract. That's the gallbladder and bile ducts. And liquid sugar has also been linked to liver, pancreatic, oral, and prostate cancers. Now, why does this happen? It comes down to two mechanisms that work together. The first is something called the Warburg effect. Healthy cells generate energy efficiently using oxygen. Cancer cells are different. Many of them switch to a faster, cruder pathway. They burn through glucose at an extraordinary rate, even when oxygen is available. It's like an engine stuck at full throttle. And their preferred fuel is glucose. The second mechanism involves insulin. When you consume large amounts of sugar quickly, your pancreas releases insulin to manage the blood sugar spike. Insulin is a growth hormone. It tells cells to grow, divide, and store energy. And here's the disturbing part. Some breast cancer cells have 6 to 10 times more insulin receptors than normal healthy cells. 6 to 10 times. Which means when insulin levels are chronically elevated, a state called hyperinsulinemia, cancer cells respond to those growth signals far more aggressively than your healthy cells do. Liquid sugar is the fastest way to push your body into that cancer-promoting environment. And the fact that it comes in a glass, not a candy bar, makes people think it's fine. It's not. There's one more thing about fruit juices specifically that almost nobody talks about: arsenic. Image 2. Insert here. Prompt: medical illustration, molecular visualization of arsenic molecules labeled inorganic arsenic, group 1 carcinogen, dark ominous background, apple juice glass with warning symbol overlay, clean scientific style, red and dark tones, 16.9. Inorganic arsenic is classified as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning there is definitive evidence it causes cancer in humans. It damages DNA. It disrupts gene regulation, and it has been linked to lung, bladder, and skin cancers. The American Cancer Society specifically lists apple juice and fruit juices among foods where arsenic contamination is a concern. Rice products carry this risk too. And interestingly, white rice tends to contain less arsenic than brown rice. If rice is a regular part of your diet, soaking it overnight and rinsing it thoroughly before cooking can meaningfully reduce your arsenic exposure. These are simple things, but they matter. Now let's zoom out from individual drinks to a much larger pattern: ultra-processed foods. Image 3, insert here. Prompt: realistic cinematic photo, dark surface, overhead shot of ultra-processed foods spread out, packaged chips, breakfast cereals, frozen meals, fast food wrappers, processed desserts, dramatic red-tinted moody lighting, warning concept, dark ominous atmosphere, 16.9. Packaged snacks, fast food, most breakfast cereals, processed desserts, frozen meals made from refined ingredients rather than whole foods. These products are engineered to be almost impossible to stop eating. They're convenient, inexpensive, and everywhere. And they are quietly reshaping the internal environment of your body in ways that favor cancer growth. Large-scale studies show that for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption, overall cancer risk rises by 13%. And for colorectal cancer, currently the fastest growing cancer in young people, that number jumps to 30%. Why? Several reasons working simultaneously. First, ultra-processed foods spike blood sugar rapidly, which feeds that insulin IGF-1 cycle we just talked about. Second, these foods promote chronic low-grade inflammation. And inflammation is one of the key conditions that cancer cells exploit. It weakens the immune system, your first and most powerful defense against abnormal cells. Third, many ultra-processed foods contain additives like emulsifiers that damage the gut lining, disrupt the microbiome, and promote systemic inflammation. And fourth, and this one is underappreciated, ultra-processed foods crowd out the protective foods. The more of these products you eat, the less room there is for fiber, phytochemicals, vitamins, and minerals. The very things your immune cells need to identify and destroy abnormal cells before they become cancer. It's not one bad ingredient. It's the entire dietary environment that these foods create. Now let's talk about something that causes a lot of confusion: processed meat and red meat. And I want to be very careful here because the science is genuinely more nuanced than most headlines suggest. Image 4, insert here. Prompt: realistic photo, dark dramatic surface, side-by-side comparison. Left, processed meats including bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli meats with red warning glow, labeled processed meat. Right, unprocessed red meat steak with more neutral lighting, labeled unprocessed red meat, clear visual distinction, cinematic style, 16.9. Let me separate these two clearly, because they are not the same thing and the evidence treats them very differently. Processed meats, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meats are classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as Group 1 carcinogens. That's the same category as tobacco. Each additional serving of about 2 ounces per day is associated with approximately a 23% increase in colorectal cancer risk, and associations with breast, lung, esophageal, and prostate cancers have also been found. The mechanism is fairly clear. Processed meats contain nitrites and nitrates used for curing and preservation. In the acidic environment of your stomach, these compounds can form nitrosamines, known carcinogens that directly damage DNA. And DNA damage is one of the earliest steps in cancer development. Now, unprocessed red meat is a different story. The evidence here is weaker. It's classified as Group 2A, meaning there is biological plausibility and some observational association, but the direct human evidence is limited. And a major review actually concluded that for most people, reducing unprocessed red meat intake would produce only small benefits, with low certainty evidence. So where does that leave us? I think the most honest answer is this. The risk from red meat depends heavily on the overall dietary context. Image 5, insert here. Prompt. Split photo concept, left side. Red meat steak alone on plate with minimal vegetables, dark ominous lighting labeled low fiber diet. Right side, same red meat steak surrounded by colorful vegetables, legumes, salad, bright healthy lighting, labeled high fiber diet, clear contrast, cinematic 16.9. There was a fascinating study published in the British Journal of Nutrition that illustrates this perfectly. Participants ate around 300 grams of red meat daily. Their markers of DNA damage in the colon increased by 21%. But when researchers added 40 grams of resistant starch, a type of fiber, to that same diet, those DNA damage markers returned completely to baseline. Gone. What this suggests is that red meat eaten alongside fiber-rich foods creates a fundamentally different internal environment than red meat eaten in the absence of fiber. The fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria produce compounds like butyrate, which reduce inflammation and actively protect the colon lining. So my position on red meat is this. Eating it daily, probably not a good idea based on the totality of evidence. Eating it once or twice a week alongside plenty of fiber-rich vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, I don't think the evidence supports calling that a meaningful cancer risk. And one more factor that rarely gets discussed, cooking method. Image 6, insert here. Prompt. Realistic cinematic photo, meat cooking on a grill at very high temperature, dramatic flames and char visible, smoke rising, dark moody background, overlay labels showing HCAs and PAHs, DNA damaging compounds, warning concept, dark ominous atmosphere, 16.9. When meat is grilled, fried, or barbecued at very high temperatures, it forms compounds called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Both of these damage DNA, and both have been linked to cancer. The good news, this is very controllable. Pre-cooking your meat before grilling reduces the time it spends over high heat. Marinating with herbs, garlic, vinegar, or onion-based marinades has been shown to significantly reduce the formation of these compounds. Avoiding sugary marinades helps too. Sugar chars quickly and accelerates the problem. And choosing leaner cuts means less fat dripping onto the heat source, which means less smoke and fewer harmful compounds absorbed back into the meat. The preparation matters as much as the food itself. Now let's talk about heavily salted and preserved foods. Because this one is often overlooked in Western dietary discussions, but the data is striking. Image 7. Insert here. Prompt: realistic photo, dark moody surface, close-up of heavily salted and pickled foods, salted fish, pickled vegetables, cured meats, soy sauce bottles, dramatic lighting with orange warning glow overlay, gastric cancer concept, cinematic medical style, 16.9. High salt intake damages the stomach lining over time. It promotes chronic inflammation. And that repeated irritation makes the stomach progressively more vulnerable to cancer-promoting compounds. Studies show that people with high salt intake have approximately 68% higher risk of gastric cancer compared to those with lower intake. Many preserved foods also contain nitrosamines, the same DNA-damaging compounds we discussed with processed meats. This is why stomach cancer has historically been far more common in regions where salty, pickled, and preserved foods are dietary staples. This doesn't mean you need to eliminate salt. It means that heavily salted preserved foods, consumed regularly, carry a real and measurable risk that most people in Western countries don't think about. So let me now give you the framework I promised. Image 8. Insert here. Prompt: clean medical infographic style, dark navy background, simple visual framework showing 2 columns. Left column labeled cancer-promoting environment, glucose spikes, chronic insulin, inflammation, low fiber. Right column labeled cancer-resistant environment, stable blood sugar, low inflammation, diverse microbiome, high fiber, green versus red color coding, bold white text, 16.9. Cancer cells thrive in specific conditions: chronically high glucose, elevated insulin, systemic inflammation, a disrupted gut microbiome, and low fiber intake. Every dietary choice you make either pushes your body toward those conditions or away from them. The foods that consistently push you away from those conditions are the ones you already know, but probably undervalue: vegetables, legumes, whole grains, fruits eaten whole, not juiced, nuts and seeds. These foods stabilize blood sugar, feed your microbiome, reduce inflammation, and provide the phytochemicals your immune system needs to identify and destroy abnormal cells. The foods that consistently push you toward a cancer-promoting environment are liquid sugar in any form, ultra-processed products, processed meats consumed regularly, heavily salted preserved foods, and meat cooked at very high temperatures without protective measures. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to eliminate everything, but the pattern matters. The direction you're moving in matters. And the small daily decisions, the drink you choose in the morning, whether you have a salad with your steak, how you cook your food, those accumulate over years and decades into the internal environment that either protects you or exposes you. My patient from the beginning of this video, the one who thought he was eating reasonably well, made 4 specific changes. He replaced his morning orange juice with whole fruit. He stopped eating deli meats during the week. He started marinating his weekend barbecue meat with herbs and vinegar instead of sugary sauces. And he added a serving of legumes to his dinner most nights. 4 changes. Not a complete diet overhaul, just 4 informed decisions. That's what this is about. Not fear, not perfection. Understanding. I hope this has been helpful. Stay well, and I'll see you in the next video.